So, hello both of you, welcome along to our Mission Possible Sofa. A little bit of a debrief just so you're aware, it's a place where we grab some of the speakers, some sustainability professionals and kind of leading minds in this area to just reflect on the show so far, their sessions, and a little bit more about the areas of sustainability they're focusing in. So with me today we have Claire Thompson-Sage, the Sustainable Development Coordinator at UPS, and Howard Lungley, the Head of Strategy, Digital Impact and Sustainability at BT Group. Thank you both for coming along. You two were in the same session just now on the Energy Theatre, which was all around accelerating the shift to electric vehicles, I believe. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to sit on that, so it would be great for me if you could just give me a bit of insight into what the session was about and what you took away from it as a kind of key finding.
I think really it was about what we've been doing in terms of delivering electric vehicles, what the infrastructure's required, getting boardroom buy-in, so the pricing strategy, and really telling people what the key challenges are in delivering electrics, what you need to do, what you need to consider.
Yeah, it was a really, really useful session. I think for me, one of the key takeaways was that it's so obvious we're at a tipping point now where electric vehicles are a urgent commercial priority for fleet operators. So one thing I was focusing on is the role of the sustainability team in coordinating all of the crucial stakeholders in a big complex organisation to get the whole picture together, so that the senior stakeholders can give it their support and we can start to deliver on our strategy. But the maturity of the issue now is, very, very strong, and everybody's going to be developing their EV strategies. If they haven't started yet, then they need to straight away.
That's a really good point, because there's policy in place as well. It's not just market signals, the 2042 phase out for new diesel vehicles as a starting point. So it seems that in terms of getting that boardroom buy-in, everything's in place for the board to be aware of it. But how do you make them accelerate that strategy a bit quicker, which is what some green groups are asking for at a policy level?
Well, I found actually the decision makers in BT have been very receptive. They're almost pushing me for more ambition. So I thought I was there pushing them, but they're the ones driving the level of ambition. The difficulty is actually building the evidence and to support that ambition. And that takes time. So, we've just got to the position where we're deploying our first fully commercial pilot of electric vans, and that's been about 2 or 3 years in the making, that program. But the scale of our ambition is to roll out electric vehicles as far and fast as we can. Recognising that there are some key external dependencies, but I don't think certainly there are limitations, but the ambition of management is not one of those.
And Claire, a similar question to you. Obviously, UPS is a bit different, certainly around kind of urban logistics in terms of deliveries and whatnot. So I imagine you've had to not just get the boardroom buy-in within UPS, but there's a lot of strategic planning with other companies and organisations that perhaps you weren't historically talking to.
Yeah, I think UPS has got strong credentials in targeting for electric vehicles, and the boardroom generally buy into it. Part of the difficulty we've had is not having the availability of the vehicles in the numbers we would like. So companies like Arrival come into the marketplace. I think other large fleet manufacturers will have to come to the table now with electric vehicles, and with that choice will become competition and hopefully reduce the cost.
And so is that one of the big kind of enablers to you to really spur the uptake of electric vehicles, certainly commercial electric vehicles? Is it that competition amongst the market? Is there any other kind of technology barriers that need to be overcome as well?
Yes, certainly. Matt, the trouble we had with infrastructure and getting the charging at Camden and the smart grid technology that we've deployed. So you really need to look at the whole thing holistically. So you need the charging infrastructure, you need the mechanics trained to service the vehicles, you need the wireless charging infrastructure, you need the electric vehicles, you need a variety of hybrid vehicles that have a longer range. So all those things go hand in hand together.
And then for Howard, a similar question to you, but I suppose more so the barriers from perhaps a company point of view in terms of getting different areas of the business and staff incentivised, right? How's BT approaching that?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are the external barriers, but they're the internal barriers too. And that's where one of the things that we've been focusing on, because we've got a large organisation, and at the best of times it's difficult to implement change quickly. This is clearly an area where we need to. So we found probably the most effective way of overcoming that internal sort of inertia is just to get everybody together. So we've got so many different teams that need to play a part in our electric vehicle strategy, who don't normally talk to each other regularly. So, the first thing I did was to set up a cross-party working group, which just gave them the opportunity to thrash out all the issues in the room. And it just sped up the chain of communication so much. And actually it helped people build advocacy as well, because I guess in any organisation you've got those people that are supportive and really enthusiastic and are advocates, and those that are less so. So as you begin to make progress, those advocates really feel like they can go out and spread the message much more, and it's sort of a bit of a kind of an unstoppable wave now, I would say, in BT, that we've got senior management buy-in, we've got progress proof points, and there's a lot of talk about amongst our enthusiastic employees about the future of EVs, and I think it's past a tipping point now. I think we've got to a point where the organisation is ready.
Now, and a question for you both, just to finish on that. As EVs become much more commonplace amongst commercial fleets, what changes from a business strategy? What kind of areas around transportation or maybe energies that perhaps weren't in synergy now start to become much more of a strategic point for a business? Perhaps Howard, if we start with you for that one?
Yeah, well, interestingly, we just got so used to business as usual. I think nobody was really questioning the sheer size of our petrol and diesel budget. But obviously that's something that we can now rethink. The costs per mile of an electric vehicle are a fraction. Probably a quarter of the cost per mile of running a diesel vehicle, which has huge cost savings for us. Now that has actually sort of rebalanced some of the discussions, and actually there's an awful lot of interest now from our energy teams, who are not the team that would normally procure the diesel and petrol, and how and those teams are now thinking about how they power the fleet. So it's actually changed quite a lot in our organisation.
Okay, and what about yours, Claire? What's different now?
Yeah, certainly with clean air zones coming in, that's spurred people to, particularly in the UK, to accelerate. But again, we're limited by the amount of vehicles available to us, not by the ambition of what the company wants to do. But I think as we move forward, it's really, you're right in that we are on the cusp of something here, but we need to make sure that the power, the train mechanics are all there, because yes, the cost of EVs is lower, but if there's a shortage of train mechanics and the cost of your MOT and servicing doubles, then that's a different story. So we need to make sure all these things go hand in hand. Okay,
great. And so Edie Live, the tagline for it this year is all about turning ambition into action, turning those business strategies from ambitions into action. So to finish on, I'd like, and it can be either a business ambition or a personal ambition of your own related to sustainability, that you would really like to turn into action over the coming months. I'm guessing they're going to be quite similar in terms of theme, but let's see what your ambitions would be.
I think we're doing all the things in the corporate world in terms of carbon footprint and electric vehicles and renewable energy. So nothing to do with my job, but just on a personal level, spurred on by David Attenborough, I'd like to ban single-use plastics.
Oh, great. Okay, great stuff. And then Howard?
Well, I was sticking to the theme of electric vehicles. I'd like to get to the point where this is embedded in business as usual. So it no longer requires the sort of input and coordination and leadership of the sustainability team. and we can move on to the next emerging sustainability issues, then I guess my work will be done on electric vehicles.
Well, I thought those would be similar, but they were completely different, so that's on me for assuming there. Guys, I realise we're getting towards the end of the day and you've probably got other things to do, so thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.